Hey there, it's Angela, and I'm so glad you found your way here to architecting. Creative careers can be stressful, and it's hard to be vulnerable, but this is your landing pad for raw honesty. I'll help you get clarity, reconnect with your passion, and have the career of your dreams. If you're ready to make a difference, have an impact, and say bye-bye to burnout, stick with me, and let's get architecting. Bright Lights, it's Angela, and welcome to Architecting. This is the place where I break down the roadblocks to you living your best life as a creative professional, something I call success on your terms. And today, we're exploring a huge issue that I've heard from so many of you about, and I've seen in our own firm, and that is time that it takes for the creative process to unfold. I'll be the first to say that creativity is an iterative process, and it involves divergence, where we're collecting a lot of data, thinking about a lot of things, but then convergence, where we are making decisions and eliminating options. In my years in the profession as an architect, I can say that is truly the biggest stumbling block, is that convergence part. We're really good at saying it could be this, it could be that, and going through all kinds of rabbit holes. But what we're not good at doing is creating a decision-making structure based on the project goals, the client's objectives, what our research has actually told us matters, and then using that structure to work the convergence part of the process, narrow things down, make decisions, and most importantly, commit to those decisions. So this commitment is a kind of global macro scale to micro scale process. So the initial commitment might be to a certain direction, like saying that we are going to have a lot of multi-purpose spaces. But as the design process goes on, we're starting to define what multi-purpose looks like, and how one multi-purpose space might be the same or different from another, and why, and the specific things that would support it being multi-purpose. And as we get into design development, we might select products or materials that give more flexibility in the room. But you can see how you need to make that commitment first, that you're going to have multi-purpose spaces, or there's a certain adjacency or flow. And when you make that commitment, you're all in. Don't second guess yourself. Don't doubt. Don't leave the door open for that decision to be questioned. And by creating that good, solid infrastructure, it becomes more like a math problem, where we know what our constraints are. We've defined how they create constraints, and we know what the negative space is that's available then for developing design opportunities. The more that we take the time at the beginning of the process to do really good research, to really lock in these parameters, the easier that gets. One of the biggest things that is happening in retail today, which is a really great example for this point, is that there's too many choices, and confused customers don't buy. So if I want to go and buy a tube of toothpaste, I have probably 30 different choices, and those 30 choices are scattered among 8 to 10 different brands. So even if I have brand loyalty, I'm still overwhelmed. Should I do the gum project that helps prevent gingivitis, or the one that supports gum repair? I don't know the difference. Why are there two different ones? And now I don't know what to do. And it's easy to be in that same quandary of our own making as designers, when everything is on the table and everything is possible. We can't make a decision, because no matter what we decide, we're always going to wonder about what would happen if we had picked a different option. This is why it's so important to have that infrastructure in place when we start without any preconceived ideas, when we do our homework on the industry's trends around the issue, on where our client is, on what they're organizationally ready to do or not do, when we understand their pain points in how they are working today. We can help to unlock what they really need then in design. And pro tip, it is not always a parroting back of exactly what they said they needed. They're not hiring us to be their pen. They're hiring us to be a trusted advisor to help them bring the vision to life. And while they might have some ideas about that vision, some standards that they use, it's up to us to ask better questions about what's really going on, or why something is really important, or if something could be done in a different way. When you do that, when you take that time to really partner with your client, to ask better questions, to do your homework, observing them in their space, because what you see happening may tell you a quite different story. In fact, it usually does, from what you're hearing. The people that are in the room during design meetings are often not the boots on the ground users. So you need to understand the real issues being faced, whether you're shadowing somebody, doing a survey, having observations, focus groups. What about the end user, the customer? In lean design, we talk about the voice of the customer as well as the voice of the process. So what does your client know about what their customer needs? And in this case, customer is a loose term. It could be the student if you're designing in education. It could be the patient and family if you're designing healthcare. It could be the staff you hire if you have any kind of corporate client. What does that customer really need? What are the pain points of that customer? Take the time to understand that as well, because it may lead you to some very different programming decisions or some light bulb moments around process and flow. A lot of times, everyone is stuck in how they do things today. And there's a lot of assumptions made about what is needed or required. But when we can learn more, we can start to question some of those assumptions and realize that things could be done a little bit differently, that maybe some of the processes in place or understanding about what needs to happen are coming from coping with existing space that is creating hardships or obstacles, or from space that is supporting a process that no longer reflects what is currently happening today. So there are a lot of workarounds in there. When you take that time, you are creating a much better structure in which to be creative, because you know what's really needed. You know where to focus your energy. And when you're reviewing the project with clients, you know how to focus them because you are directing them to the problem that really needs to be solved, not a bunch of extraneous issues. You're able to keep redirecting them back to the big idea, to the goals, to the purpose of what you're doing. So this helps a lot. Even though it feels counterintuitive, we want to dig right in once we start a project, to really spend a lot of time doing that homework and sharing that with your client and building consensus about not only what's important, but why. A lot of times projects will have goals, and the client was part of setting those goals, but there's not a real embracing of why those goals matter. or why those goals are going to mean that you're going to prioritize something, even if it doesn't match the thing you believe in most. So we can break that emotional attachment and really focus on what's important. This is a big first step that will save you so much time, so much money, and avoid that glacier-like feeling we can have in design of it's one step forward, two steps back, and the frustration of having one meeting where you feel like you're hearing one thing and you go to the next meeting after spending a lot of time responding to what you heard, only to be sent in yet a different direction. When we have this infrastructure, we're able to minimize those redirects a whole lot more. And we're able to have efficiency also on our team so that we are giving very specific assignments to the people on the team. We're asking them to solve very specific problems. We're asking them to bring the receipts of why a certain thing they're showing is going to solve the problem. We're concerned about multi-purpose spaces. To go back to the example I started with, why is it a multi-purpose space? Did they go down some rabbit hole of designing a lot of custom casework with all kinds of interesting but one-off features that would be very expensive to build and maybe not contribute significantly to it being a multi-purpose space? And we could have used a furniture solution instead. Or maybe multi-purpose is about what's going on in the ceiling, or what's going on with the lighting or acoustics, or about the ability of one space to connect to another. And spending time working on some very funky, if quirky or interesting design solution really wasn't getting at the meat of the problem. This is a great way, once you have that infrastructure, to also keep your team from burning a lot of hours, going down a lot of rabbit holes, and to keep them focused as well. And as you work with this process, you'll find that it really does cut the time you spent, reduce the iteration, and also let you progress so that even though you're going to keep iterating as you go through the different phases of the project, those iteration loops are going to become tighter and more focused every time. It also helps your client to see the value of design, because another thing that can really derail a project is when you get that first cost estimate and everyone has sticker shock, and all of a sudden all these great things that you were excited about, that your client was excited about, are on the chopping block. It takes an incredible amount of energy and time and creativity, and now you're trying to prop up a demoralized team to boot to respond to that. When again, if we can, through this process, have this better structure for making decisions, it is a whole lot easier to prioritize. And we also haven't overdeveloped details. The detail development is appropriate for the stage of the project, so that we're discarding a decision, we haven't put all the time and effort into fully developing it at a very granular scale, only to have it be discarded. That makes it a very emotional thing to have to lose, very demoralized feeling, and it also has burned up a lot of hours that you're not going to get back. We feel a lot better when the options are appropriately at the scale of where we are in the project, because then we're not as attached to them and we're more easily able to change course. I hope that this helped you. I'm always looking for ways to support good design and to really show why design makes a difference. It does matter. It is not a nice to have. It is not just about meeting functional requirements or aesthetics. It supports the way that people live, work, and play. It enhances their ability to be their best selves in the space, which is really what our clients are hiring us to do in the end. And it's something that no owner's rep, contractor, developer, all these things that we like to point fingers, the things that are demoralizing our creative potential, especially as architects. This is where you matter. This is where you shine. This is the one value that can't be taken away. This helped. Like, rate, and review this project wherever you are listening. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have a whole new series there called Space Doctor, where I talk very, very specifically about design for well-being. And I'm using this fun card deck that I developed that is a culmination of my whole career's worth of research in design for well-being. So you don't want to miss it. I'm trying to do one of those a week, and it is exclusively on my YouTube channel. Head on over there and make sure you subscribe so you get notified every time I have a new episode out. All right, everyone, take care and have a great week. Thanks for listening. If you want even more content, head on over to architectingpodcast.com and subscribe to my newsletter and get some great free downloads while you're there. Be sure to follow me on social media. On Instagram at Architecting Podcast, Facebook and LinkedIn pages are Architecting, and the YouTube channel Architecting Podcast. Stay inspired.